Um, hello. My microphone is not the best. And I've put off learning how to make audio good. Um, and I've put off a bunch of other things, but um, uh, I want to get this video, recorded and done with now. Because I don't really want to put it off that much longer. So some of uh, the qualities here might not be as good as I wanted them to be originally. But hopefully they'll work okay. Um, yeah, okay. Let's see. And yeah, I don't have like the best audio recording setup, but I don't, no more things. This is a year-end video for Best FNAF Videos 2025. Um, I'll maybe do more caveats at the end. So how this list is formatted. Note, I did not rewatch all these videos when I was putting this list together at the end of the year. I was keeping the list throughout the year, but I may not remember all the things that struck me about some of the videos at the time when I originally had seen them. And then down here is how the images are being formatted throughout the list. So if the image is in the bottom right, that's the thumbnail of the video I'm talking about. And if the image is in the bottom left, it's an honorable mention by the same creator. Okay, so I was originally going to do original art for all of the different um, videos I'm talking about on this list, but I ended up not getting around to that. So I did it for like 4 or something like that, but not all of them. So anyways, this is art for uh, Ghost FNAF. That's not really her name. She's just Ghost, but I call her Ghost FNAF. Maybe that's my bad. Her Into the Pit video as the thumbnail there. I forgot to write down the title of most of these videos, but hopefully I'll make a playlist at some point, and that can be in the description. Um, some of the specifics evade me a little bit, um, but from what I recall, it is that I thought the figuration of how, I guess, agony maybe is functioning as this wider metaphor in this media ecology that is Into the Pit, where it's some kind of trauma that's geolocated. Um, it's like an injury in place, not in person. That's also spreading, and that is coinciding with these other traumas that are existing in this place. So it's this trauma of event of murder, but also there's these economic traumas and other things that are you know going out into a community. Um, I thought that was interesting. I thought some other parts of the video were interesting as well, and I thought it was a well done video overall. Um, and it was a video that I just finished my first FNAF AMV from last year, and I spent a little bit working on that. And after this video came out, I kind of felt like, oh, if I had seen this before I did my video, I would have approached things quite differently, or a couple of things differently, because it was saying a lot of the things I was trying to do, and I felt like yeah, uh, it just is a really well put video. Um, okay, and this is the next image that I did, which is for Carnival Sticks, Immortal and the Restless. That's what IATR stands for. Debunked type video. That's the one in the bottom right, where Stick is providing some interesting research into a Reddit AMA with the artist who did the drawings for the Immortal and the Restless cartoon, where she is saying that someone asked, "Oh, why is the vampire wearing purple?" And she said, "Oh, I just kind of felt like making it purple, because a lot of FNAF fans really like pointing to, oh, the vampire is purple because it's William Afton or it's Michael Afton, and some interesting claims get rested on that specific point. And so this is saying, hey, you know, if we actually go back to the source material, if we ask the artists who are involved in making this, this is one of those cases where we do have evidence that seems to contradict this general claim. And so I thought that was really interesting. Yeah. And then also his baby video from last year, I thought was good. It's kind of a soft reboot of Hey It's Maze video on a similar topic from 2024. And this is a drawing I didn't finish, but this was a sketch, I guess, for Alena Woodlands, part 1, Alena's Woodlands, who, you know, still my goat. For some reason, I wrote in my notes that she is like the Big Joel of FNAF theory YouTube. I'm not sure what I meant by that. Yeah, so specifically, this is her Scrap Trap video. In my opinion, it's one of the only correct usages of Scott saying that he likes to point people in his intended direction via clarifications in future games. A lot of people take that comment by Scott, and I think this video maybe doesn't even directly reference it, but a lot of people take that comment and, you know, make a lot of dubious claims of like, well, everything isn't always exactly precisely the same, and so because at some point down the line there became like representational differences, oh, that's clearly like telling us something. But this is saying like, again, another act of historiography of going back and saying, well, you know, what were the historical contexts at the time that may have caused this artistic change, other than, yeah. So it's a change that's motivated by, you know, people having misunderstandings about certain things. And then I think another important thing about this video is it's not just this lore change. It is also tied to these other things. Or like it's like multi-layered in terms of what this change is connoting to viewers, which I think like sort of you have to have if you're going to be making these kinds of claims. Maybe there are exceptions, but in general, if the claim is like, I hate to pick on ID's Fantasy, but her video from the end of last year about, oh, maybe the location, the pizzeria location from FNAF 4 daytime minigames is actually Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, not Fazbear's Family Diner, because I don't know. And then she uses this quote as sort of defense when there was just sort of like one line of, you know, maybe difference that she's writing along versus this video is, yeah, I just thought that this was a well done video. And I don't want to send hate towards ID's Fantasy. I'm sure she has other videos which are, you know, well argued. I just thought that video, yeah. Anyways, this is not about that video. Alena's Woodlands Part 2. Also her box video from last year. This was an attempt, in my opinion, to intervene in the rising tide of theory discourses about the box, which were going on at the time. Even though, you know, in a post beforehand, which I won't pull up, but I just know to be true, she was saying like, oh, I think everyone's tired of talking about the box, but I want to make a new theory about this. One second. And so this is what came of that. So like people weren't necessarily making active, you know, box claims. Like in 2024, for example, Dual Process Theory had their big, you know, FNAF Explained timeline video where they were saying, oh, inside the box is Cassidy Afton / the Crying Child. His body parts like cut up and put in there, and some people are saying like there's a robot child inside the box, blah 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 blah. But you know, relevant you know, as I'm saying here, insofar as God/loop victim discourses were nascent at the time and then became like totally catalyzed with the release of Secret of the Mimic, and now that's, you know, as I've talked about previously, being syncretized as God David, one of the main strains of any kinds of theorizing that's done in stuff like popular FNAF spaces. So by arguing for this kind of temporality of authorship, which resists popular desire for orderedness and exacting authorial intention, is what this video does. Interesting to compare this with Game Theory's box video, where, also from last year, where Tom takes this annoying stance of calling out Scott for not revealing the contents of the box. I don't know, Game Theory is on like a record run of not very good videos, but again, this is not about them. So yeah, Alena's Woodlands just makes super sleek videos. She gets in, gets out, that's it. I'm not going to belabor this anymore, even though I have. Okay, here's the image that I ran out of time in making, but this is for Cosmos, whatever this video is called. It's something about, you know, the toys in FNAF 4. This is another FNAF historiography video. This time is taking the task of the infamous and cryptic message in the FNAF 4 minigame, why would the toy Chica be missing her beak? And like these other messages that Scott was putting out on scottgames.com/FNAFworld.com at the time. And I think it makes compelling arguments, and I think also, yeah, like the theory is also like a little bit beautiful and evocative as well. It's a well-made video, etc. Okay, the ancient brain rot. What if FNAF was Iranian? I just thought it was a funny video, but it's also making a kind of argument in a clever way. I'll not clarify that. Everything's always making an argument. You know, check this out if you haven't seen it. It was a good video, one of the best from last year. Flip side, laugh, secretly big mega, whatever, blah 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 blah. Essentially saying like, oh, maybe Five Nights at Freddy is gonna end up being like the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. I think that like this is definitely not true, but I don't know. I just appreciated this video. It was like, every now and again, I can get down with FNAF fans reading like so much into things that are not signaling anything at all. This is one of the cases of where, you know, it's, in my opinion, all in good fun. Sometimes it gets wrapped into, you know, a larger infrastructure, and that can be kind of, but I don't know. That video stuck with me. Claviskey Part 1, Henry's not desk guy. This is another historiography video where Claviskey is going back through the, you know, historical circumstances, context of when FNAF World was coming out, when these updates were coming out, what Scott was saying at the time, and saying like, and this is also another video that's essentially contesting what would become and what was becoming God David, Loop Victim, these types of things, because those theories love talking about FNAF World and Weird Eyes and what the like clock mini games are saying, and there's this stuff about, but anyways, that's besides the point. Essentially, Claviskey is, because a lot of these arguments go through, there's this figure of Desk Guy in the game. People say, oh, Desk Guy is Henry, or Desk Guy is, you know, this, that, the other person, and that is providing this kind of symbolic order for the FNAF universe. Once we have that understanding, people are sliding all these different things, and you know, game theory is a big progenitor of this claim, as Claviskey is talking about. But Claviskey says, like, actually, it seems almost undoubtedly that Desk Guy is a self-insert for Scott, you know, talking about his own sort of like mental health struggles as an artist at the time. Okay, and then second Claviskey video from last year, Friendship Theory Part 1. I thought this was good, fun. It was like, yeah, one of the FNAF videos from last year that like really got my blood pumping and excited, and yeah, it was another like beautiful video. Yeah, maybe I think some of this might not end up being true, but it was captivating enough for me. The part 2 came out at the start of this year. Thought it was, you know, less catapulting, but it's still well made. Check out Claviskey's other stuff as well. Albert, this is an apology video about a previous video that Albert made last year about Edwin, which is an Edwin and Henry parallel video, saying that Edwin was like a Henry parallel and he ruins the games, blah 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 blah. And this is like a follow-up video to that other video saying like, oh, you know, guys, I'm sorry, you know, I got feedback in the comments and I thought about it more, and I was mistaken, and you know, here's how I can kind of like unpack that, etc. And people rarely do that stuff in the FNAF community from what I've observed. And yeah, I just thought that this was like a very genuine, full-throated video. I appreciate the production value and all this stuff, and I'm a fan of Albert. I have been for a while. I appreciate the, you know, work that gets put into, etc. Immense Andrew, Dave Miller's William Afton parallel. It's April Fool's video. I think it's like 4 minutes long. All kinds of people making FNAF April Fool's videos, and most of them are like not interesting, or just like, oh, sure, okay. Not to pick on Candy Bunny, or I don't mean this in any offense, but Candy Bunny, for example, I forget if it was 2025, 2024, had an April Fool's video saying like, oh, when does FNAF 2 take place? Is it 1987? Oh, I guess it's 1987. Like, okay. But, you know, this video did end up being prescient in a kind of way because I'm not equipped enough to make this kind of argument I want to be making. But Immense Andrew's video about Dave Miller and William Afton parallel is making an argument about the fraughtness of these book debates. And yeah. An honorable mention, Immense Andrew's Cradle video. It was just like a genuine attempt of saying like, hey guys, I really don't understand what's going on in the text. Like, this is what I've got, and like, these are all the pieces I seem to have, and like, I'm trying to put them together, and nothing sort of seems to be like fitting. Usually FNAF fans love like forcing stuff together. Well, a certain type of FNAF fan. But yeah, anyways, that's not about that. FM Plus, I don't remember FM Plus started posting, I think in 2024 maybe FM Plus started, but this Liminal Spaces and Pizzaplex video I thought was really good. FM Plus, great creator. I've stopped following him as closely, I think, just because, you know, I've had been stepping away from FNAF Tube in general, but I really like this video. It prompted like a lot of ideas for me, and I ended up writing like a whole essay in response to it. That I think, you know, turned out okay, or at least had some interesting ideas that I went to build on in other places. Yeah, check this out. Check out FM Plus's channel. There was like another part of this Pizzaplex series, which I thought was like less well done, but there were lots of like really interesting specific claims being made in this video. FNAF beta stuff, most things from this channel, FNAF beta stuff is truly carrying the FNAF hoax core scene. I thought that there was like a FNAF 2 dev timeline video, but I couldn't find it again when I was putting this together. But in any case, this Springtrap model evolution video is how I first found FNAF beta stuff. I thought it was a good video. I like some of the videos on the channel. You really have to know what you're seeing. I don't know. Part of it's making an aesthetic argument on the end of like epistemology, where like like the production of beauty is happening, like not necessarily like in the images themselves, but in like kind of a subterfuge, or what the word would be, of like the plane of knowledge and expectations, and yeah, I don't know how to say it exactly, but I think FNAF hoax score, or just hoax score in general, is like really rich, and more to be said and done with that. Sodal, second retcon. This video is like kind of gibberish. It's, you know, indecipherable from, you know, what blew up into God David Industrial Complex slop type stuff. It was also seemingly accepted by them insofar as people like FNAFology, no hate to her, and Gibby's Horror Homestead, maybe hate to him, were in the comments saying like, oh, like this is cool, and then FNAFology later is making a loop victim video that is a lot of God David stuff gets rested on. But also this video comes out on April Fool's Day. So it's like, is this serious? Is it not serious? Like, what is going on? Sodal is just like in playing single player while everyone else is trying to play, when a lot of other people are trying to play multiplayer. And it's fascinating in a way that I tentatively appreciate. I don't know about the long-term strategy though. A logicist, ITP, Into the Pit, that is, versus Vanny Network, saying that they're the same, you know, jokingly, this is called balls theory. I don't know, I just thought that this was a good video for, that's what I wrote in my notes. I think maybe I have a comment that under the video that goes into more thoughts. I feel like I was maybe going to write an essay about this, but I had like so many comments that I was going to turn into things that I just didn't have time. Underscore Sodom Decoded Before It's Out series. This video is 100% wrong, pretty much, but I still found it beautiful, to be honest. It's emblematic of something I hope to talk about more one day. That is the utter failure of FNAF community to predict the future, and the refusal to change strategies when their predictions fail, as such, to come to this. Extra Tuna, you know, love him, hate him, he is existing. Torn Alive, I think it's underrated. I mean, I guess it has like close to 1 million views, so it seems to be pretty rated. But there's like 3 or 4 segments in that video that are like so funny. And like the video overall, I think the song is not, it's decent, I think. But it's really funny. And of course, like Jackie's Box came out the tail end of 2024, I think. Yes. But it was not on my radar then. It came on my radar 2025. And it's like iconic. What can you say? Longest solo ever. You Created a Liar. I don't know, I thought this was a good song when I was in that sort of initial Sodom phase, like really entrenched in that text, and this came out, I was like, whoa, it's cool. And then also the Jackie's Box cover, I think was good. I don't really remember that so much. V-Meme, I think this Jackie's Box cover, but epic video. I don't really remember that much about it. Yeah, I left some comment under it, but I forget what I said. Mortimer, Color Theory Part 1. You know, I was hesitant at first, but I think it's a pretty compelling video, except for the God David part. That is, there's also like a randomly, what is it, Will Care segment? And I'm like, what are you doing? I don't know, but there's some interesting things in there in terms of like, talking about like character design or whatever. Theffy experiences disabled FNAF fan. This was like a good anecdotal story. Talking about disability, something that's under discussed in the FNAF community, in my opinion. So yeah, I appreciate that. Varar, F10 Light Arnold. Shout out Varar. I disagree with Varar on a number of things, but I really appreciate them for accepting and responding to me so genuinely. I throw a lot of things at them. Him, I think, actually. Oop, my bad. Sorry for misgendering Var. I can double check. Who knows? Them. Nebulously gendering. And yeah, there were some lowlights from last year, like Var's video about how Didophobia was foreshadowing Secret of the Mimic. Like, FNAF fans don't seem to understand literary devices, which, I don't know, that's fine. Not everyone has to know that, but anyways, I thought this was a good video. It's reframing FNAF analysis or theory, saying, instead of what is the text doing, what are these symbols trying to tell us, of saying, well, it is saying that in a sense, but of saying, like, what are the characters wanting inside the text of the text, and how is that being signaled to us? I think I turn it into something more in my head than what it is all doing, but that it allowed me to do that, it's worth mentioning, at least. And then Felfeb, I think, is the last one on the list. FNAF song, story FNAF. I don't even know what Felfeb's deal is. From the creator of Abraham Lincoln Stronger Than You response comes a great FNAF song in time for the release of the FNAF movie. It seems like Felfeb is like an Undertale Deltarune fan, and it's just like cross-posting old Undertale Deltarune songs in like other fandom spaces. But I don't know that Abraham Lincoln is like a fandom space, but like Felfeb makes, I don't know, it's yeah, that's what I got for that. And then yeah, I wanted to give like a requiem for DDX3, who was always a commenter I appreciated, and I noticed at one point that they stopped commenting. Yeah, I remember like messaging friends at the time, like, oh, like this commenter sort of like stepped back away, and that's made me a little bit sad. And at the time I thought, well, maybe life got in the way. But looking more into it, I think that DDX3 has deleted their YouTube account, which has then accordingly, erased all material record of their comments. Like there still are screenshots embedded in different places. For example, Mini Bytes Games has a video, I think it's a video where he is talking about the Murray's Costume Manor clip, or whatever it's called, of the Cleanovac, when that was released on Mimic Mondays or whenever that was. And he had a screenshot up of a DDX3 comment in the classic DDX3 style that only they could master, of these bullet points. A lot of it is sort of maybe a kind of paranoid, or how you want to call it, but in that classic FNAF fashion, seeing patterns where there's nothing, and it is very working in this style of engagement with the text that resulted in people being so wrong about what Secret of the Mimic was going to be about or was going to hold. But I always just like appreciated it, and like DDX3 was such an embodiment of this hype and anticipation around Secret of the Mimic. Where like the game ended up being different, and I think like the game is, you know, interesting in its own right. But in that time where like people or the community was like waiting for the game to come out, and everyone's like making their own sort of fantasy and headcanon of like what it was going to be, I thought that like moment of like holding your breath was like really beautiful, and EX3 was like a big part of that for me. So yeah, I just want to include this as like a way of saying, you, commenter, who I never said hi to, who I would always see passing me on the streets, who had such a passion for FNAF and could communicate in the arcane and FNAF bullet point fashion like almost no others. I saw you. And while it's true now that I miss you, it's also true that I want to respect the fact that for one reason or another you've left. You don't have to stay here forever. No one ever does. No one ever can. But I still want to say that for the moments we were together, across space, separated by profile pictures and computer screens, I liked you, and seeing you always made me happy. And that means something to me, even now. I hope you're doing well, person I know nothing about, but your screen name, but your writing style, your profile picture, that silly image of the dog. Take care. And so yeah, and to close this off in sort of like retrospective 2025, some questions come of like, you know, how do we build from here? How does the FNAF community keep going? Where do we take things? I'm not really interested in God David's industrial complex continuing, but it doesn't look like it's slowing down that much. And so these questions can be answered or discarded for this next year, over the next year. And I want to close now with a poem I started writing when Tales Games was still like the main thing in the zeitgeist. So this is before Secret of the Mimic came out. Was the poem ever truly finished? I don't know. So I've called it Epilogue Apocrypha, The Mimic and Me. She washed 10,000 spiders down the drain and turned the sink disposal on. This crushed its all 8,000 limbs. After waiting till its cries had stopped, she then rinsed her hands right off clean, and wiping dirt and sweat from brow. Elsewhere, in the cement-sealed catacombs, a troop of teens was trespassing, but didn't know the dangers, nor what it was that had been trapped down there for a span which equated to a long time. Thoroughfares collapsing. Now they're all down, tumbling. The settled dust reveals a labyrinth. Most rooms were empty, but some contained mascot suits piled big. And from one came a rustling, as a mass of wires emerged, pouring forth from the mouth as eyes. The liquid resentment shuddered to life. It had learned from its father that one had best be penitent. By now, though, that didn't matter, not since the death stench had crept in. Whipped fast like a bullet, it shoots out a limb, and whacha! The boy's begotten tracheotomy. Prefrontal lobes peel open easy. It's all about smashing with grit, then you pincer with precision, or at least start in that way by gesturing. Hate and rage in an ancient but playful disdain, it had a directive, it was following orders, but that was just the premise, a means to an end. In truth it was cunning, and knew to tell the difference between kindness and sin, but its body was hateful, and its geometries now hurt to touch. Ripped open heart, caved in stomach, it did not want forgiveness, it needed to win. It would succeed no matter the cost. It would bring him back no matter what the cost. Bolts unseamed in zippered cacophony, cables shot through metal rods arterially, and the ever-gnawing anchor of rust held open the wound. Intestinal springs transform into vice grips. The new branch of phrenology takes a metal subject. It sutures into the skin of a clown and attempts to flex its autonomy. Intervention, though, has other plans. Decapitation, that is. She flicks the creviced lever exposed by tome and oral tradition to turn it off, and elsewhere water wets the drain and lubricating hope of insulating her from guilt. The shredded abdomen seeps deeper into the sewer. The big ones are eradicated, for now. A vision of another world, another time, a want that was willed but never could be. How do we try? How do we see? Can you ever make it up to me? And so, what but a miscarriage would all of us find on that note in that hole in that basement that we left behind? So yeah, that's the show. That's the program I have prepared for you today. Thank you for sticking with me. If you made it this far, maybe next year I'll do this again. I don't know. I didn't really. Yeah, we'll see. If people make good FNAF videos, I'll do it again. And then, like, there were a bunch of stuff that didn't make the list because I just wasn't diligent enough in going back through stuff. Like, there were a bunch of animatics and animations and other stuff in the more fandom side, less theory side, that I saw this last year that was like moving or beautiful in all different ways, that I forgot to have on the list. But that happens. And that's where things are.